All right, guys, so we have gone over working with charcoal. We've done a little practice. We've gone over how to shade with charcoal, creating three-dimensional basic shapes. Today I want to go over how to shade with charcoal to create a little bit more of a three-dimensional face. So applying the techniques of charcoal to observation and duplicating on a face. So you're going to have a standard face that looks like this, and what we're going to do is we're going to shade it to look something like this. It probably will look a little messy. Like I mentioned before, charcoal is very messy, so that's okay. First thing we need to do is we need to get out our supplies. So you are going to need your vine charcoal, you're going to need a charcoal pencil, you will need the compressed, the kneaded eraser, and then your blending tool of choice. If you want to have all three ready to use, then you're more than welcome to do that. So the first step after getting our supplies is we're going to take our vine charcoal and we're going to lay down our middle tone values first, kind of mapping out where some of those highlights are going to stay. So we can see there's a highlight right here on the cheek that pokes through. There's a little bit of a highlight showing through on this nose right here, and then a highlight just above the eye that we're going to keep in. So first things first, I'm going to put in just a rough triangular shape for the cheek, just like that. For the nose, we're going to follow along this edge here, keeping the shape of the side nose. Let it go like that. And then for this eye, we're actually going to come up to the eyebrow like this. And then from the other side of the eye, come up to the eyebrow like that. And then from here, it's just creating this outline of the shadow on this side of the face. So it kind of comes and swoops around like this to about right there on the eyebrow. And then it connects these two pieces here. It's going to come over the eye, up underneath a little highlight that shines through there, and back down along this nose line. And then a little bit actually underneath the nose, down to the lip. We're going to go up and over the lip, and then in a little bit on the underside of the lip like that, down to this little curve around here, and then it actually jumps a little bit back up the chin and then back down like this. So you should have a shape that looks something like this, and this is a slow process of building up. It is going to look a little weird at first, but we're going to take it a few steps at a time. We also want to take our charcoal and just go ahead and follow this hairline, because we're going to have dark hair right now. So next we're going to take our vine and just fill in this area very loosely, keeping inside the areas that we indicated are going to be black. So avoiding this area around the cheek and around the nose, filling in all over the face. And all around the hairline. And once you are finished with that, take your blending tool of preference, and we're going to just smooth that out. So the fun thing about charcoal is it's a lot of pushing and pulling, smoothing and refining. But when we first lay down charcoal, it's really just about getting those values quickly placed. We're not concerned with having exact details pulled out just yet. It's really just making sure we get everything where it needs to be. So being cautious around the eye, around that cheek, around the nose, just kind of getting the general area mapped out. So it should look a little bit like that. So one thing we can notice is the middle value here, which is actually this color right here, it looks a lot lighter on this side because of the darkness of the black, but it comes out a little bit further into the picture plane than what we've done. So what we can do is we can actually go back in and we can kind of blend out some of those harsh lines up here on the temples. We can blend out just slightly on the nose here, and then we're going to blend out a little bit on the neck here, as well as the chin. Okay, then with the little bit of charcoal that we have left on our blender, we can actually come over here to this eye, and we have a little bit of a bag going on underneath the eye, as well just the slightest bit of a shadow on top of the eye. we have a little bit of a shadow going on over here on the side of the ear. It goes a little bit under the cheek here, and then there's a little bit of a shadow actually going on over here on this side of the neck. And then you can always kind of continue blending out as you need to, being cautious of our areas. Up of the eye, we're going to blend that out just the slightest bit, remembering to keep as much white as we possibly can so we don't have to go back and get some of that white back out later. So now what we're going to do is we're actually going to start putting in our darker values. So sometimes there are more middle values. If you need to spend more time with the charcoal vine stick, building up some of those middle values, then that's what you would do. In this instance, we pretty much have 3 values: light, medium, and dark. So we're going to go ahead, we've got our medium, we've already got our light still out, so we're just going to go ahead and start darkening up. So again, we're going to follow the lines of the shadows. So that's going to be this line that comes up here and up to the hairline. It's going to come back in and down on the eye, around the eyelid, and creating that highlight, back up, and then down the nostril, creating a shape here on the cheek, and then down here around the lip onto this lip, and then around onto the chin, then back up and down the neck. And then we also want to follow along the hairline here. Now this step, we actually need to lay down a lot of thick color very quickly. So what we're going to do is we're going to pull out the compressed charcoal, and we're going to go ahead and use that to just lay down this charcoal. Don't be afraid to lay this pretty thick, because the more you lay down, the darker your color is going to be. And we want to create a contrast between the lighter vine charcoal that we just used and this darker compressed charcoal to really create that stark contrast. Keyword we just used the other day, contrast, which is going to create the chiaroscuro effect, which is the whole purpose of our project. So we're going to come around here, just fill it in, just something like that. Like I said, it looks a little weird, but this is one of those steps that just you have to keep working it and pushing it and pulling it and all that fun stuff. So now we take our blender again and we start blending. And we're going to not blend out all of our edges, but we're just going to blend along all the black parts here, being mindful of our highlights. If you're struggling with those highlights, keep them out. You might need to change blending tools. I know there are some points where I actually prefer using the tortillon instead of the paper towel, and I'm one of those people that will swear by a paper towel blender, but sometimes you just can't get that fine point and that specific detail that you need. So we're just going to blend that out, and then all the way up and around. Just like that. So now we have a lot of harsh lines, but on this side you can see that some of our darker lines are harsh, but not quite as harsh as this. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to dust off a little bit of my excess charcoal there, just like that. And then I'm going to come back, and I'm actually not going to use the same part of my blender. This is very concentrated charcoal. So if you were to take this and you were to put it on the paper, you're going to see it's going to come out very, very dark. So what you want to do is you want to take another part of your blender. So if you're using a paper towel, that means changing the way it's folded. If you're using the tortillon, changing which angle you're using it from. If you're using your fingers, you got to change your fingers out. Use a different finger. And then we're going to take that and we're going to just very, very lightly blend out that line. You can still see that line, but it's not quite so harsh. An important aspect of shading is that even when there is a straight harsh line, it's never just a straight on drawn line. That is super important with shading. It will never just have a straight line. It's always going to be blended, even when it's a very harsh difference. So you can see I kind of lost my I was going to say shadow, my highlight there. So I can pull that back out in just a minute with some charcoal after I get all of this blended out just slightly. All right, so taking my kneaded eraser, making sure that it's not filled with charcoal. If it is, then I'm breaking it apart. You don't want to just, if you have a new eraser, it might get all stringy and stuff and pull nicely. You don't want it to be like, you know, don't have like mozzarella cheese. Don't have like lots of like pulls. You want to like be quick and kind of aggressive with your pulls so that it breaks apart. Because just pulling it slowly, I can't even get mine to do it. Pulling it slowly will not get the right effect. So after it's clean, I'm going to take it, I'm going to put it into that little cone shape and very carefully start pulling it back. And notice how every so often I'm actually taking my eraser and I'm folding it, because when you use your eraser, it's going to get filled up, and when it is black, it will not pick up anymore. So you want it to be clean. You want it to be fresh when you are picking up the charcoal. Pick it up. All right, that's close enough. Not quite the size we had before, but it's okay. Now we're going to go back and we're going to start adding in smaller details. So again, for the smaller details, I like to start using the tortillon. And what you can actually do is you can use it and you can pick up some of that black charcoal over here. You don't even really have to put down more color, and use what's on the tortillon to start adding value in other places. So for instance, we can pick up some charcoal from right here, and there's a little bit of a shadow right here on the dip of the lip. So we can use that to create that shadow effect right there. And it's just a little bit of a U shape. We can use the shadow right here on the nose. All right, there's a little bit of shadowing on the lips, especially the lines of the lips. Always going back to this dark area, pick up some of the excess charcoal, just like that. And then we also have some details going on at the eyes. So from here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my pencil and I'm going to outline the top lid just a little bit and put just the slightest amount of charcoal inside the eye where the color of the eye is. And then from there, blend it out just ever so carefully with the tortillon. Remembering to keep that highlight where the eye is at its brightest right there. Okay, and then you can always go in other areas. There's a little bit of shadows right here. There's some shadows going on inside the ear. There's a little bit of a shadow that goes up on the nose there, rounding out that nose just the slightest bit. There's a little bit of a shadow that peeks around on the chin. You can even say that there's some shadows coming out of the neck here and up on top. Now the final thing is that the eyebrows are actually a little bit darker than what we have drawn here. So I'm just going to use my pencil to darken those up just a little bit. And then again, blending that out, because there's not going to be any just straight harsh lines. We're always going to be blending. And you should have something that looks kind of like this. So again, charcoal is a really wonderful tool that you can always be pushing and pulling, taking away and adding to. So if you ever notice there's any areas you don't like, you can always take back out your eraser and keep working it. And really just observe what you're looking at for your reference. It's really important to use your reference and see where those middle values are and where those dark values are to create the most effective appearance of a 3D portrait.